Hello and welcome to the Hearts of Iron 4 tutorial for complete beginners here in 2024, which includes a complete playthrough as Germany. So not only do you learn how to play the game in its entirety, but you'll also end up controlling half of the world by the time the tutorial's finished. If you haven't already, do check the description. Make sure you start episode number 1 if you are quite new, or if you are just looking for help on one particular thing, stick with it. Today in part 3 we're going to take a look at civilian factories as well as controlling the Air Force. So continuing on from where we were before, if you are trying to follow along, make sure you load up part 2 or continue playing from where we were last time. That's where we are now. What we're going to take a look at, start my little timer going so I've got a vague idea how long the video is going. What we're going to take a look at is the free civilian factories here. So this is our notification. If I show you on screen what we're doing might help. The free civilian factory notifications up here are used, let's just say, to build stuff. So this is one of the really weird concepts about this game that is totally unlike any other. It's probably one of the things that makes this game most difficult to learn intuitively, because until somebody like me explains what's going on to you, it just doesn't really make that much sense. So civilian factories in this game are used for 2 reasons. The first and foremost, as in the highest priority reason, there's nothing you can do about it, they will feed and clothe your population. So the factory produces the food, the tinned goods, the toasters, the clothing, the housing, all of that sort of stuff. Every factory that you have over and above that initial requirement is what I like to call excess capacity, and the excess capacity of the civilian factories are used to build stuff. They do not build tanks, they do not build aircraft, those are your military factories, but they build the factories that build the tanks, that build the aircraft. They build the road networks, they build the rail networks, they build the harbours, the docks, they build all of that kind of stuff. The oil refineries, the radars, the air bases. They build it all. So to think of civilian factories as, if I was playing another game, I would think of them as engineers or as builders. But this game calls them civilian factories. The other thing to take away from this game when it comes to civilian factories and a sort of financial aspect is this game, you will have probably noticed, does not use money. There is no dollars, no pounds, no Reichsmarks. It is, the game gets around that by using civilian factories, and I'm just gonna go on a little tangent here and tell you why. In real life, money is a thing that we use to buy and sell goods and services, all right? And to put it into another way, we use money to pay somebody else to do something that we don't want to do, okay? I don't want to, and in fact I don't know how to, design and come up with a new iPhone. So I pay somebody money who's already designed one and produced one and gives it to me in a nice shiny box, okay? So I pay somebody to do that because I don't want to do it, or I don't know how to do it. If, however, you are not an individual living in an individual household, but you are an entire country and you are running that country like a dictatorship, and I don't care if you say, oh, well, no, I'm playing as the UK, that's a democracy. Not in this game. It might claim that the UK is a democracy, but the way that you control the UK, you play a dictator. If you're playing as the UK, what you say goes. There's no 2 ways about it. So you play it as though you're a dictator. Well, it's the same as any other country in this game. Because of that, the people do what you tell them. If I tell my people I want you to build an air base, they're going to build it. If I want them, no, I want an oil refinery, they're going to build it. They're just going to do whatever it is that they do. The only thing that stops me being able to not build more things more quickly is dependent upon how many civilian factories I have. That's the only limiting factor. And people just work there, quote unquote, for free. Okay? So, but it's the same sort of thing in real life. If you imagine, if you take money out of the equation, people go to work, they produce the widget, they go to work at the shop, they sell things in the shop, they stack the shelves, they go for a work at a weapons, munitions company, and you know, I'm grossly oversimplifying things here. They tip the gunpowder into the shell and screw the lid on, you know, whatever it is. People do that, and I get it. In real life, they get paid money, but then they go and they take that money, they buy foods, they pay the rent, they pay the bills, and then they go and do it all again tomorrow. In this game, you're providing the food and the clothing by having those civilian factories. So it's almost like a socialist system where everybody works for the state and the state provides for everybody what they need. And every country kind of is done that way, and you get rid of the idea of money. So it's crucial to wrap your head around that concept, because you may be looking at this game thinking, okay, I see this. I've got this many people up here. I've got this much war support. I've got this much fuel. But where's my money? Where does it say how much money? There is no money. Money is how many civilian factories you have. And this is why when it comes to trade, you'll get this once you get that idea. When you trade with another country, you don't trade money. You trade the use of your civilian factory or your civilian factories, because remember, civilian factories let you build stuff and are the closest thing that there is to money in this game. So if I have 10 civilian factories and they're building something for me, but then I start trading for loads of oil with somebody and I give that somebody the use of my 10 civilian factories, I can no longer build stuff with those factories because I'm trading them. But the other guy can. He now gets 10 additional factories because of the trade deal. So again, think of factories, money, factories, same sort of thing. So let's click then onto the civilian factories. Now I've been and done that to death. And this one here is our civilian factories. So if this was another game, think of civilian factories as engineers that build stuff, and most strategy games, when you start with an incy-wincy little base and you need to build it bigger. So civilian factories build stuff, build more civilian factories means more factories, more engineers to build more stuff more quickly come tomorrow. Good way to start. So civilian factories that are spare. Let's click to build a civilian factory, and I'm going to pick, let's go to Moorsland here. See, this state here, Moorsland, can support up to 10 factories. It's currently got 3, so I'm just going to click one time. Now take a look at this. We've got 15 factories out of a total of 15 that are working on this project. And if we take a look at this, the project is to get Moorsland from 3 factories plus 1, in other words, up to 4 civilian factories. Okay, so that's what's going on. Now, if I then say here we've got Rhineland, 7 out of 12. Now let's say I want a civilian factory there as well. So I'm going to left click onto Rhineland once, because we've still got civilian factories selected here. Left click. And so now that's going to be increased from 7 to 8. So far so good, right? But hang on a minute. We've got 15 factories working at Moorsland out of 15. But there's only 13 factories out of a potential 15 at Rhineland. So what on earth's going on? And the answer is because we only have so many factories in total. In this case, if you take a look right at the top of the screen there, we've got 38 factories in total. And we've now got 38 of them being used. So I'm going to, again, we're not unpausing this yet. I'm just going to right click on these to cancel what I've done. Now take a look. We've still got the same 38 factories, but we're only using 10 of them. Now, what are we using the 10 factories for, you ask? So this is really, really crucial to understand. 9 of them are being used to produce consumer goods. See this little icon with the toaster? Remember, this is food, this is clothing, this is housing. This is everything a population needs to live. In other words, if you were to play this game and your intention was, oh, I'm never going to go to war, I'm never even going to do anything military, we're just going to be a completely pacifist country that just wants to be left alone, you would only need 9 factories and that would be it. Those 9 factories would supply everything that everybody needs and that would be the end of the story. However, that would be for a pretty boring game, and so the 9 factories used for consumer goods, plus the 1 factory that we're trading for. If you remember in the last episode, we begun the trade deal. Let's take a quick look on the trade screen with Siam for the rubber. And again, we were getting 8 pieces of rubber, and in exchange, we were trading the use. This is so crucial to understand. Trading the use of that 1 factory. So if we come back over here to our construction page, that 1 factory is as though we didn't have it the whole time we're trading for those 8 pieces of rubber. Now, if we cancel the trade deal for the rubber, whether we cancel it now or in 3 months' time or in 3 years' time, at the moment that we cancel the trade deal, we get the factory back. And we're able to use the factory to do what we want. So you may think at first, well, hang on. If all that we're doing is like loaning a factory or loaning the use of the factory for the trade deal, doesn't it kind of seem like we're getting the rubber for free if as soon as we cancel the trade, we get the factory back? And the answer is, well, it may seem like you're getting it for free, the rubber, but the problem is, we need the factory to build more stuff. And so if we keep loaning factories to other people, we can't use them to build more stuff. Those people can. Which is why when you set up a trade deal, it's important to choose a partner that is either neutral or better yet is in your side. You know, if I have a choice to trade a certain something, let's say oil, and my choice is, right, well, I can trade with Romania or I can trade with Russia. Because I think I'm probably going to be on the same side as Romania, certainly if I follow the historical narrative, I would much rather trade with Romania as opposed to Russia, because then Romania will get the use of that factory and be able to build more stuff. I hope I've done that one there quite much to death. So if I've got 38 factories available, I'm actually gaining 4 from trade myself. So what this actually is saying is I have 34 factories physically. There are 4 people from elsewhere trading with me right now, and I actually gain 4 factories. So in other words, I can use 4 factories that belong to other people as though they belong to me because they're trading with me for whatever it is, steel or whatever. Happens automatically in the background. As long as somebody isn't against you in terms of the war, and currently we're not at war with anybody, if they want loads of metal and we've got loads of metal spare, the trade takes place. So coming over here to civilian factories, take a look what happens now. So let's put 1 factory down at Moorsland, and again you can copy along now if you want. Now put 1 factory down at the Rhineland there, and so there you see it. 15 factories, 13. That's all the factories used up, all 38 out of 38. When the construction completes at Moorsland, that's obviously an additional factory that we have. So instead of having 38, we will end up with 39. So that means that everything is going to build slightly quicker. Then when the factory completes at Rhineland, we're going to end up with 40 factories. Okay, 38 plus 1 makes 40. And then obviously we can keep building more, and then things will go more quickly and more quickly. So I'm now going to put 1 more factory down, and let's choose Hessen. Currently 3 out of 8. So we're going to click there. That will make it 4 out of 8. Because we've used all our factories, take a look at this. Hessen has 0 factories available to build out of a potential maximum of 15. So Hessen's basically queued up until one of these others has completed. But let's say, no, for whatever reason, we want Hessen to be a higher priority. we can actually click here to move Hessen up the priority. So if we put Hessen up as top priority, notice now Hessen is first, 15 out of 15, and Rhineland has actually slid down. Now, it doesn't matter which order that you do these three particular in, because they're basically, we're doing the same thing in the same sort of area, but sometimes it will matter. So, for example, if I also wanted to produce a synthetic refinery, and you don't need to copy this bit, but let's just say I wanted to put this synthetic refinery in Franken, I've not got enough factories to produce this, as in they're going to go Hessen, then Moosland, then Rhineland, then Franken. But let's say, no, I need the oil now. Then I may decide, all right, we need to put Franken up top of this list. Obviously, the rest of the stuff's going to suffer in that regard. So I'm going to cancel the oil refinery for now. Let's just get these 3 civilian factories on the way. And once all those 3 have completed, instead of having 38 factories, we should hopefully end up with 41. At least that's in theory. So there. A very... I would say that's probably the most difficult thing and the most unique thing about this game. If you can wrap your head around the concept of civilian factories, how it equates to both people that build stuff as well as money in a weird kind of way. You use it as a bargaining chip for trade deals. If you get all of that, then you're doing pretty well, because it took me about 2 years to wrap my head around that concept. Okay, let's escape that. Let's continue on. Missing equipment production. Okay, this is an easy one to solve. So what this icon is basically saying is, you have something in your army or your air force and you don't have enough of that thing. In this case, we do not have enough transport planes. We do not have enough naval bombers. And what this is saying is, not only do you not have enough, but you're not even building these things to replace the shortage. So what I'm going to do is click on the icon. It's going to load up my production menu. And I'm going to look for transport plane and naval bomber to put them in the queue. Now, I know they're not already in there because it's telling me they're not in there. You know, it's not just that we don't have enough. You don't have enough and you're not even building any. So I'm going to click to build a new aircraft. If we come down here, we've got the naval bomber. So let's click that. I'm just going to scroll down and again, click the menu, use the scroll wheel. We're going to put that into the aircraft list there. And now if we take a look, naval bomber is no longer a problem. Transport plane is. So I'm also going to build some more transport planes because they are useful, especially when it comes to supplying divisions that are in the remote hinterland of the Russia as we're going into there, you know, past the steppe. So coming down here, I'm going to look for transport plane. Here it is. Click on that. And once again, scroll wheel, click and put this in order. I'll actually put that underneath the tactical bomber. Okay, look at that. The menu item there warning us that we're not producing this aircraft shortage has disappeared. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you may say, well, hang on a minute, how's that? You've got no factory. I see that you've put one factory down, but you've got no factories actually working on the aircraft because you didn't have any military factories spare to begin with. Well done if you spotted that. The reason that the message has gone away, even though you can see there we're going to be producing none every week because, of course, no factories working on something equals, well, nothing, right? The game can at least see that we're trying. And what will happen is, when we at some point get round to building 2 extra military factories, whenever that happens to be, these will then automatically start working on what we've asked them to. In this case, 1 factory on naval bomber, 1 factory on transport aircraft. And because the game can see that we're trying, it's no longer going to badger us about it, which is great. So that's that one there. This next one here, no divisions in basic training, is exactly what it sounds like. It's like, okay, so this here is your army screen. Again, F1, F2 for Navy, F3 for Air Force, but back to F1. Here's your army screen together with your military divisions, all your army divisions, or the HER, I think Germany called it, H-E-R. Again, perhaps somebody from over there can correct me if I'm wrong. The divisions here are what we've got. They're already trained. There are no new ones being trained. Another important thing to understand about this game is that you have equipment over here. Think guns, think tanks. You have people over here, as in population, that is recruitable. And that's actually this number up here. That's 1.33 million. So this is not that Germany only has 1.33 million. It's that under the current laws, only 1.3 million are eligible for military service. In other words, women are not eligible for military service. Old men are not eligible for military service. In fact, most men are not eligible for military service. But once we start changing the laws, we can change those things round. But just because you've got military equipment here and you've got men over here does not automatically equal, well, put that together with that and bingo, you've got yourself an army. You need to train them, basic training. So once you've got your equipment available and you've got your men available, you combine those two things together in basic training. And then once the training completes, then you get your division that basically turns into one of these things that you can click on. So this message here is saying we've got none of that training underway. So I'm going to click on this here. And this opens your recruit and deployment window. Now you've got a few options here, 4 of them, and it's just a priority thing. And what this is saying is, when it comes to equipment, if you don't have enough, let's just use the word gun. It's a very simple one. If you don't have enough guns to go round, who gets first dibs on that gun? You've got the option between, well, I'd like to reinforce the front line. So in other words, you've got some infantry on the front line, and through attrition, through battle, through wear and tear, whatever it is, they're now missing a gun. They're a gun short. Somebody's wandering around without a gun. They need a new gun. Are you going to send the gun that you've just produced to that infantry division? Or you've got upgrades. Well, hang on, we've got some older guns here. We want to upgrade to the newer one. Do we wish to send the gun for an upgrade? Or we've got supply trucks. Now, supply trucks is obviously not really guns, but it is does take trucks literally. And so if we have one truck available and it's like, well, this guy on the front line needs a truck because it's part of a motorized division, or we've got supply trucks, who gets the truck? And then, of course, we've got garrisons. So obviously these are the people that once we've conquered a certain area in an enemy state, we set up a garrison, and that garrison is basically in charge of sort of policing the area and security. You know, they're basically looking for, oh, the words escapes me. What do you call them? The resistance. They're looking for the resistance, right? And those kind of things. So again, if we've only got one gun to go around, well, in my opinion, what's most important is the military fighting on the front line get first dibs on that weapon. I also believe the lowest priority is on the upgrade. So in other words, I think it's more important that somebody on supply, for example, gets their equipment before we start thinking about upgrading people who have already got something, but it's just not necessarily the newest equipment going. Then we've also got garrisons. Now, I think supply is more important than garrisons. You know, and again, if everybody's got what they need, this won't be an issue. But if it comes down to it and you don't have enough equipment for everybody to have everything, and this will happen when you play this game, you got to think who is more important. And in my opinion, supply trucks is more important because they supply our soldiers on the front line, and to make sure that those people are supplied is more important than necessarily having a fully kitted out garrison. So in my opinion, this is the way I like to roll. Just the way I like to do it. Now let's look at actually recruiting divisions. Now we will take a closer look at modifying divisions and creating our own divisions later on in one of the series, but in this series of tutorials, should I say. But for now, we start the game with access to 5 division types. So we've got infantry, which is your soldiers. You've got your Panzer division here, or we should say light Panzer divisions, because you've got light tanks and heavy. At the moment, we're just operating on light tanks. We've also got a motorized division here, so think of this as basically troops that ride in the back of a lorry. The lorry goes to where it needs to go, and then the troops jump out. In other words, they're a lot quicker than troops that are on foot. Here you've got basically mountain special forces, so I think that says Gebirgs Brigade, but basically soldiers that are special forces. And that's this little symbol on the lower left that looks like almost like a little wasp. I think it's like a stick with leaves on. But in any case, soldiers that are very much equipped to deal with mountainous terrain. Now, they're not necessarily the best when it comes to fighting in all situations, but when it comes to combat in hills and mountainous regions, they're the best. That's what this is for. I have to be honest, in my style of play, I tend to neglect the special forces a little bit. It's just I tend to go with the more generic guys, but, you know, each to their own. You also get access to Marines and paratroopers as well. We'll take a look at that as things go on. And, of course, here we've got the cavalry brigades. Now, being 1936, and even into 39, 40, and even early 41, Germany very heavily relied on horses, as did many other countries. So, especially when it came to things like supply and stuff like that, and moving artillery around, that kind of thing. So, again, you've got your cavalry divisions here, which, of course, are able to move much quicker than people that are on foot, but are not as fast as your motorized. So, because ideally I want something recruiting all the time, we're going to start recruiting infantry. Now, it used to be a pretty standard thing that people would recruit loads of cavalry divisions just to try and get the total number of divisions up, because these were the cheapest things to recruit en masse. But I think the game plugged that bit of a, I won't say it was a bug, but it was an exploit. So what we're going to do, at least is the way I would do it, is we're going to start training some infantry divisions. I'm also going to train a single Panzer division as well. Now, once we've clicked on these things, the first thing it wants you to do is specify a place where the training is going to be. I believe they will just train anywhere, but you need ideally to specify a place. Personally, I find near the capital is best, simply because all of the supply in the game comes from the capital. We'll take a look at that more closely in another episode as well. But suffice to say, although Berlin in this case is our capital, we could train on the very southern tip of Germany, or we could even train over here near Königsberg. In my opinion, it's best to train near the capital, again, just for the purposes of supply. So I'm going to take my Panzer division, I'm going to click on it, and I'm actually going to click on Berlin itself, just right next to the capital. There we go. And you can see now the Panzer division is going to train in and around Brandenburg, and once they complete their training, the icon will literally pop up right next to, well, right next to these here at Berlin. Infantry division, I'm going to click for those to train, and I'm just going to click a neighbouring county. I may click down here at Saxon. So again, just left click there. And so that's where these guys are training. Next thing to look at then. So infantry, we see here this green graph. Look at this. Manpower, 9,600. Well, yes, we've got loads of men spare. We're now down to 1.31 million. We did have 1.33. They haven't died, don't worry. It's just that we've just basically taken a huge chunk of them for this division here and for this division down here. Now, if we take a look at this and just hover the mouse, it says equipment 64%. So even though we've got enough manpower, what we do not have, if we take a look, infantry equipment, we've got 594 out of 910. Now, that's because our factories have not produced enough guns. In other words, we're short literally on weapons. If we take a look at support equipment, we need 30, we've only got 15. Artillery, we need 12, we've only got 8. Now, if we come down to the tank, situation here is even worse. They require 5,500 manpower. Well, we've got all of that. That's not a problem. Light tanks. They require 240 light panzers to fulfill this division. We've only got 6, so that's terrible. Infantry equipment, they need 250. We've got 0 spare. And that makes sense, of course, because the first lot of equipment that we had went to the infantry division and we set those out first. We take a look further down, trucks. They need 90 trucks. We've only got 23, and it just gets worse from there. Now, you may say, well, hang on a minute. It's more important that we kit out the panzers than it is a regular infantry division. And I would tend to agree with you. So what I'm going to do here, we've got low, middle and high. I'm going to come over to my infantry division and actually set these to low equipment priority. So what's going to happen now when we unpause the game, the factories are going to continue to build new stuff. All of it is going to go to the Panzer division first because it's a higher priority, and only when these guys are fulfilled. So if we take, for example, let's have a look here. The infantry equipment, only once these have got all 250 pieces of infantry equipment, will then the game carry on giving infantry equipment to these guys. So that's the way it's going to go. So what I'm going to do, and again, if you haven't already, make sure that you've copied what I've done here. Infantry equipment set to low priority, Panzer division set to middle. What we're going to do now is unpause the game and watch what happens to this graph just above my hand here. So unpause. See how it's starting to fill up? Just going to speed up the time a little bit. Press plus a couple of times. See how that's filling up? And that's literally, I'm going to pause it again. That's literally our factories producing stuff. Again, if I was to hover the mouse over, take a look at this. We've now got 24% stuff. They're still well short on tanks, but infantry equipment, 109, so it's almost half. Trucks, support equipment, we've got 4. Artillery, we've got 3. So I guess you could say, you know, there's a big group of guys, 5,500 of them to be precise. They've at least got something to look at and a couple of things to play with, haven't they, to sort of get the basics down. So that right there is how we go about recruiting divisions and the difference between equipment, manpower and divisions, and why you need to train stuff and who gets what equipment first when there's a shortage. And trust me, you will be short on equipment. I don't care who you're playing as. If you're playing this game, you will run out of stuff and you need to prioritize who gets what where. Okay, last thing to do then, but before I think we wrap up part 3, is this icon here, our unassigned divisions. And as you can see, we've almost gotten rid of the notifications. The no template one here is that we're producing anti-aircraft artillery. If we come over to the production menu, if you remember, we set this going, the flak cannon. All of that's saying is you're producing flak, but there is no infantry division or panzer division or whatever else that makes use of the flak. So in other words, why are you producing something that you don't need? It's not an error per se, again, it's just an advisory. Now we're going to ignore that because we're actually going to give flak to one of our divisions. Again, we'll take a look at that in a future episode. So it makes sense to just start gathering some of them up. This one here means decisions are available, which we will take a look at soon. Again, we're talking political power there. And this one here is what we're going to finish with today, which is just to say that we've got unassigned divisions. All that means is, remember on the first episode, we went around creating these armies here. And of course, we've paused it since. You see there's still stuff going over. Those are divisions. That's these little things here. These are all divisions, and combine them all together to form an army. That's good, okay? That's what the game wants you to do. That's what happens in real life. That's as it should be. But this is saying you've got divisions that are not in an army. And again, if you click on it one at a time, it will actually take you around the various divisions that are not part of an army, okay? So what we're going to do is put them into an army to satisfy this. So for example, let's take these 3 panzers at Berlin. So I'm going to just draw to select all 3 of those. I'm going to put all these into a single army. So again, I'm going to click on this plus over here. I'm going to click to assign them a commander, and we're going to give these panzers to Rommel. Okay, Rommel's a good tank guy, good military armored guy. Let's give him to Rommel. Bang. Okay, with those now given to Rommel, I could of course assign them to the field marshal, but I'm not going to for now. What I am going to do is tell Rommel to take his tanks. And we're going to tell him, just go and guard over this area. So I'm actually going to click on the area defense, which is this little shield with the flag. And we're just going to tell him to come over to this area. Let's say Bremen. There we go. So now when I unpause the game, Rommel's going to take these 3 divisions and basically spread them out over this region, which is fine. And we'll take a closer look at what area defense does and the different options within that. But for now, that'll do. Okay, let's hit escape to deselect everything and let's carry on. We've got some more infantry divisions in southern Germany. So what I'm going to do is select everything that's south of Germany. So from Frankfurt on down, I'm just going to draw a big box. That selects all of these divisions here. I'm going to click here to create a new army. There happens to be 8 divisions, and I'm going to click to assign them a general. My plan for these particular divisions I've selected is not to attack, at least not in the early stages of the war. What they're going to do is hold the front line between Germany and France so that France doesn't roll into South Germany while we roll into Poland. So that's the plan. So with these guys selected, I'm going to click once again to assign them a general. And so now what I'm looking for is not necessarily the best general for infantry or for attack, but for somebody who is perhaps not so good at attack, but maybe a little better at defense. So I'm going to scroll down, and if we get down to this guy, he's pretty good. General Willem List. And if we take a look at there, he's got a inflexible strategist. He's better at defense and logistics. Okay. He's only a level 2 general, so, you know, we're not using up one of our better generals to perform a defensive task. But look at this. He's +3 on defense. So I'm pretty happy with this guy. So I'm going to select this guy. Perfect general, I think, for the job that we're asking him to do. And although we can't enter this area in red yet, he will be able to once we've unlocked that Rhineland task. However, what I will do is just get him to at least be in the vague area. So I'm going to click on the area defense, and I'm going to select the Frankfurt region, and I'm also going to select this area here around Stuttgart, and he will now space his troops in that area. Once we can get into the Rhineland, we'll actually focus on creating a front line against France. So that's that one done. Let's carry on then with these unassigned divisions. What we need to do now, or what I want to do, is create a front line between mainland Germany, which is here, against mainland Poland across there. So again, with just 1 infantry unit selected, actually, I'll take these 3 down here. I'm going to create a new army, and I'm going to set a commander. And this needs to be somebody who is quite capable with attack. General Erwin von Witzelben. And again, if you get upset about the way I pronounce some of these names, all I'm going to do is apologize and tell you to tell you to do one, because it's going to be where it is, right? So General Witzelbon, let's call him, as we see he has got an infantry officer trait, which is great because he's going to be commanding mostly infantry. So we're going to assign this guy. The order we're going to give this guy is to form the front line. So I'm literally going to press the Z key because we're going to start making use of a shortcut once in a while. And again, that's this one here for the front line. And again, if we see we've got the flashing lines, we've been over this, we're going to click here. On the one with Germany, Poland. Currently, Witzelbaum's only got 3 divisions under his command. There's no way he can hold this entire front line with 3 divisions, although if you ask him to try, he will do his best, but of course, he's probably not going to be able to do it. Before we unpause, I can hit escape, and I'm going to carry on clicking through these unassigned divisions. There's not going to be that many left, so we'll click on it. We've got a infantry division here, so let's give that to Witzelbaum. Let's click again. Infantry division here. Okay. Click here. Okay. Click here. Okay. Click here. Now you can shift and just select them all, but the reason I didn't do that is because here we've come across against a motorized division. Now, it may be tempting to give these to Witzelbaum as well, or whatever you want to call him. I'm actually going to give the motorized division over to Bock, and if you remember from earlier on, Bock's controlling this front line over here. So again, I'm with the infantry, the motorized selected there. I'm going to right click onto Bock, and he can combine those with his existing infantry. So let's hit escape. Once again, unassigned divisions, more infantry. Again, Witzelbaum. Click again, Witzelbaum. Click again. Now you may decide, oh well, we really need to keep a presence over on the eastern side, the western side of Germany. I would generally agree. If you're playing as easy versus the AI, usually you don't have to worry too much about your enemy thinking, oh well, we'll go this way and we'll do a navy attack. Although it's not entirely unheard of, certainly if you're playing on regular difficulty, expect those kind of shenanigans from the British and so forth. But because we're playing on easy, I think what I'm going to do is continue sending these over to Witzelbaum. We'll just leave one division over here for emergencies. So what I'm going to do with this one infantry division here, we'll create a new army again. And again, just somebody, again, will not make use of a good general. Will come somewhere down the list. I don't know. Let's go for the very bottom guy, Paulus. Okay. And what we're going to do is once again make use of this area defense icon. But see here, we've got various options that we can use, and they're all enabled by default. Guard victory points, guard naval bases, guard coastline, guard air bases, guard forts, and guard railway lines, basically. Now, we want this guy to stay in this area, so let's just click on this area. And you can see here, the general is saying, all right, I need 8 divisions, a minimum of 8 divisions to do what you've asked me to do here. Now, first off, let's just say, okay, well, we don't care about guarding railway lines, okay? The railway lines in our country, so forget railway lines. So we'll deselect that. Well, now he's saying, okay, well, that's great. I only need 4 divisions to ask me what you're doing now. Okay, so the next thing we're going to say is, while it would be great for you to cover the entire coastline, it's going to be difficult for you to do because you're only going to have 1 division. I'd rather you focus on somebody else. So let's deselect coastline. Next thing we're going to say is forget the air bases as well, so don't guard those. Okay, so now we're saying, all right, I need 3 divisions. Now, if the enemy attacks you, they absolutely require to capture a naval base as quickly as possible to supply their army. Same if we're attacking somebody else. You need to get a naval, a harbour in. So what I'm going to do is say, all right, forget the forts and forget the victory points. And that says, okay, well, I need 1 division then to cover the harbour. Why does it only need 1? Well, because on this entire area we've asked him to cover, there is only 1 harbour. If we was to get him to cover this area over here, there would be another one at Bremen. If we then said Hamburg, there'd probably be 3, if not 4, that he would need. But we're just asking him to hold this harbour here. So when we press escape now, we can see all the divisions have now been assigned. They've all been given an order, whether it's to hold an area, whether it's to have a front line, you name it, the order has been given. And just before we do wrap up then for this episode, let's take a look at the old Air Force. So remember, F1 for Army, F2 Navy, F3 Air Force. So let's come over to Air Force, F3, something we've not looked at yet. And these are our aircraft. If we zoom in, we've got various air bases under our control. That's all of these here. This is an air base in Rhineland. There are no aircraft in there. This here is an air base at Westfalen. As you can see, it is currently manned with aircraft. And again, here's another air base that has no aircraft. So the reason some of these airfields have like a button and some are just black literally just depends if there are aircraft there or not. That's all. Also now on this part of Germany up here, we also have a little airbase, quite a big airbase actually, for up to 1,200 aircraft, but we've only got 41 there at this moment in time. So what I like to do, if we select one of these air bases, we can see we've got these aircraft here, is I think it's really important to train aircraft up before war breaks out. And the reason behind that is a trained pilot or a trained air wing obviously performs better than novice, and that's this symbol here. The same goes for the army, the same goes for the navy. If you've got people that are untrained and they fight against people that are trained, even though they've got the same equipment and the same stuff otherwise, it goes without saying that the trained people are going to do a lot better. Same with the Air Force. So what I like to do is send all the aircraft to the same base. In this case, I'm going to send them all to Berlin. And then I train the aircraft at Berlin. And once they're trained, I then dispatch them out. The game starts with untrained air wings that, as you can see, are nowhere near up to supply. They're supposed to have up to 100 aircraft per wing, and you can see this particular fighter wing here has only got 40 aircraft out of the 100 in total. This one here has only got 80 aircraft out of the 100 in total. There are reasons why I think it's better to have a full air wing than it is to have lots of air wings that are, you know, half strength. The reasons why we will certainly go into the future, but I'm just going to say that there is a war that's going to break out in Spain, the Spanish Civil War, before too long. Absolutely, we need to take part in that, and the best way to assist will be to have complete air wings assisting rather than these partial ones. So what I'm going to do is this air wing down here, I'm actually going to disband. So this bin here, as opposed to this one here which halts the orders, I'm actually going to disband the air wing. What this is going to do is it's going to basically release all of the pilots that we've got back into the general population. That's not going to matter anyway, because as you see, they're not trained in any case. So we're basically not losing anything in terms of skill. The aircraft that we've got do not get deleted, but they actually return to a central pool, and they're going to be redistributed amongst the other air wings. Because if we take a look at some of these other airports, they're all short on aircraft. All of them have got partial wings. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that every player that you ask ever would say, oh yeah, disband these air wings. I'm just saying that for what we do generally, I would recommend this. Certainly would not recommend going into the Spanish Civil War with half-broken air wings as novice. So what we're going to do is disband these guys down here in southern Germany, so make sure you follow along there. And then I'm just going to press escape. I'm going to come over here to this air wing as well. I'm going to disband one of the top bomber one. Okay. And we'll keep the rest of those as is. What we're now going to do though is select all of the aircraft at the airbase, and the quick way to do that, again, if you press escape, is just to select on the airbase, which will automatically select all the aircraft that are at that airbase. And we're going to tell these aircraft to fly to Berlin. Now, if you accidentally right-click next to the airport, you'll actually get these aircraft, and you've basically given them an order, hey, just cruise around this area doing whatever mission that we've asked them, you know, whether it's close air support, whatever. But in this case, no, we didn't want you to just fly around. We wanted you to go to the airport in Berlin. So again, press H to halt the order or cancel what you'd asked them to do, and then just make sure you right-click onto the actual airfield itself. And now you can hear the sound effects, and if you take a look, if we unpause, you'll see these aircraft will fly over to Berlin. Okay, coming over here to Königsberg, if we select on the airbase there, once again we've got a fighter, again nowhere near enough, so I'm actually going to once again disband this air wing. Okay, press escape. Coming over to the western side of Germany here, we've got some aircraft over here, 60, 60, 80, 80. Okay, I think we should be able to make this work with a bit of luck. So with all of these selected, once again, right-click onto Berlin. They're going to make their ways over there. As you can see, Berlin's capable of supporting up to 1,200 aircraft, which is more than enough at this early stage. Last but not least, then, if we come to the very northern tip of Germany, we've got this solitary squadron here of naval bombers. This is the only ones that you start off with. There's no point disbanding these because we don't have anyone anywhere else. Once again, right-click onto Berlin, tell them to go there. Okay, so with that, once we unpause the game, so once you've set all those orders up, let's unpause. We're on, in this case, 13th of January. And just to allow everybody to get onto the same page now, if you haven't already, we're going to unpause and then we're going to pause again when we get to, let's say let's just say the end of January. So let's unpause and press your, there you can see all the aircraft have made their way towards Berlin, which is great. See the time ticking over there. And at this moment in time, I'll just hit pause while I discuss this. Because we have dealt with all the issues that we had to, all the notifications have been dealt with, we've got people in basic training, we've got factories building more factories, we've got military factories building more military stuff, we've got our docks producing ships and subs and so forth. We've done everything we need to do, and it's now a case of basically waiting for a new notification that grabs our attention. So going to carry on with spacebar, and we'll just go until the end of January. So I'm going to press plus to speed things up. And plus again. 22, 3, 4, 5. Let's slow time down. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and pause. Okay, we've also got a message. Now, you probably will not have this message appear on your screen, and that's because there is a slight degree of randomness that a general may become ill. Now, your generals never die, thankfully, but they do become ill from time to time. And what it basically means is all the bonuses that this guy gives to his army, which in this case is just this solitary division, will not apply until this guy is better, and there basically is 30 days as a standard thing. Now, thankfully, because we're not at war and there's nothing amazing going on, that doesn't really affect anything in this case. If, however, you're pushing deep into Russia with your Panzers and Rommel's gotten up to like a level 10 attack or something to that effect, and then he becomes ill, that's obviously going to make a huge difference with regards to how effective all of those divisions are going to be. So that right there on the 31st of January is the end of the first month here in Hearts of Iron 4. We've got everything under control so far. So in the future episodes, we can actually look at setting up our navy, as well as getting into some of the more advanced parts of this game, or the intermediate aspects of this game, certainly, that is still crucial to understand. And so with that said and done, let's go ahead and save the game. The Germany Tut Part 3. I suggest you do the same, and until next time, take care. Ta-ra. Give us a like if you haven't already.